So, Earth's commitment. What exactly is Earth committed to, do you think? First, I want to start out by saying that the Earth is alive. She, I'm going to use the pronoun she, is a living being in her own right. The Earth is a living being in its own right. Now, every living thing wants to live, right? I think you agree with that. You're alive and you want to live. And in fact, it's one of the defining characteristics of being alive is that drive to stay alive, wanting to be alive. And one of the driving characteristics of life is the joy of being alive. We love being alive. Everything wants to live. So I feel comfortable in saying that Earth's commitment is to life, to bringing it forward, to keeping it here, to helping it through difficult times, and then to learning from that help, from those difficult times, and shifting, changing, being different. In life's commitment to life, then certainly one would think that maybe more of life is what life is after. And certainly abundance would suggest, and I'm going to define abundance as meaning more than you really need, having more than is necessary. And we see that everywhere. Certainly the seeds from a tree or from any plant are way more than are necessary. Zillions and billions more than are necessary. So there is an exuberant abundance in nature, which we all value. And yet we also see that when there is an excessive abundance of something, and we see this particularly in mammals, when there are more of a species than can comfortably be managed, then there's a die-off. It's trimmed back to fit into the resources that are available. So abundance is there, but it doesn't seem to be the point. It's a mechanism, a part of why it's there, but there's more to it than that, I do believe. Brian Swimme and Brian Greene and people who've looked at deep time and explored how the earth has changed over time have shown that life has been moving toward more complexity. And that's a very interesting thing. So what is complexity exactly? We've certainly understand complexity when we think in biology of single cells becoming two-celled organisms and three-celled organisms and so forth. And we know in human gestation that we start out as a single cell and double and triple and all of that. But then there's a point where it's not just about more cells. The cells begin in our body begin to differentiate into different things. And when you think of the complexity just in life, you also see that same differentiation into different things. That's why we have so many different species of everything. And we keep seeing more in the archaeological records. We see more species on Earth, not less, more species, more complex species. When I think of cells as selves, as individual beings in their own right, as single-celled organisms are, when they combine, they're still a single self. So the world, the earth, is composed of trillions and billions, quadrillions of individual selves, some of which have come together in community, I want to say, to enhance the life they're living. Our body is a really great example of that, because we're 30,000 different selves, individual species that have come together in our body with millions and trillions of examples of each of those. And we can't live without them. We must have them for our life to happen. The mitochondria is a perfect example. We do not share DNA with the mitochondria, but every cell in our body has mitochondria, because mitochondria is what gives us energy. They take the energy from the sun and allow us to transform it into energy we can use. So there's a cooperation that we have decided works for us, for both parties, for every party involved. So that shared agreement that we've all made together, that we've made with the cells of our body, and that perhaps all other life has made with the life of the planet, I think can be labeled as all life loves life. And that is reflected in the statement that all actions create the conditions that support life. Now, if that's true, where do you stand? How many of your actions create the conditions that support life? Creating the conditions is very important. It means we're not doing it, we're allowing it to happen. And that's such an interesting place to spend time, to think about creating the conditions that support life, this joy of life, this luxury of life, the ability of life, the thriving of life. How do you create those conditions? How do you know what those conditions are? And I'm not sure that we can know what those conditions are beforehand, but we can create them if we pay attention to aliveness. And notice when we feel alive in what we do. Notice when others feel alive after interacting with us. And if they don't, then some sort of change must be in order. And if they do, notice what happened. How was that? How did that happen? How did that occur? What did we do or think or feel? What was the exchange that made that so vital? And then figure out how to do more of that. Simple, right? Not hardly, but certainly doable. And the more we practice that, the more we understand and utilize the sense of aliveness as a measure for what is the appropriate action or response, the more we become sophisticated in that, the more discerning we can be on the nuances involved in that, then the more we will see life thrive around us. And the more we will become sensitive to those actions by ourselves or others that diminish the aliveness of the life around us. So I would ask you to think and to pay attention in this next week, and then to come back here, please, and share what you noticed. I would love to generate those kinds of discussions. Notice when you created separation, and you can do that by language, you can do that by action, by emotion, withdrawing, all sorts of ways that we create separation. And separation is not always bad, so that's not the point. The point is to notice what does that, how you do that, how others do that around you. Just pay attention to that distancing that we do so habitually in this Western culture. And then also at the same time, notice power, whether there's power over or power with. Everything's appropriate at a certain time, so there's no right or wrong, good or bad about this. But when you're separated or when you're doing power over, is there an aliveness that happens through that or not? That's the discernment. Noticing separation, noticing how you use power, and noticing whether the way you use it created an enlivening experience for yourself or others. And others, I would say, for yourself and others. And then think about how you feel about that. If you want to move toward aliveness, what needs to change? What in your habits need to change? And I would love to open a dialogue about that. So come back here and put it in the chat underneath the video and share under comments what your experience was. And if you want to change that, I have some possibilities for you. We're offering a course. It's a 5-week course called What Does Earth Need? So you can sign up for that on my website, or sign up to be coached, or just give me a call or send me an email and we can chat about what you might do about the situation you find yourself in and the way in which you want to move forward. It does take a village. It really does. We don't do any of this alone. We're not designed to do it alone. The earth is alive, and that aliveness is filled with billions and trillions and quadrillions of individual selves, all equally alive. But it's the relationships among them that create the beautiful world we love so much. It's those relationships we need to learn to manage, to evoke, to recognize in our own lives, not just between humans, but between us and every other form of life that we are connected to or engaged with. It's it's a lifelong practice is what it is. And it's a spiritual practice as well. When you start thinking this way and you go back and listen to spiritual people and poets, those two folks, and indigenous folks too, but spiritual folks and poets, you'll find they're saying exactly this. They've been telling us this for centuries, millennia, maybe even. And some of us get it and most of us don't. So I've been thrilled to discover that science is saying the same thing. And I think that will help some of us who may not resonate quite so much with the poetry or the art that also says this. But maybe once we get it, we'll find that we resonate with it much more. So think about that. Where do you separate? Where do you use power over, and where do you use power with? And what's the result of that? What is more enlivening to you and to the people or selves that you're interrelating with? And what do you want to do about that? Where does the path for more enlivenment seem to take you? It's a journey we can go on together, and I would love to go on it with you. So I'm Catherine Alexander, founder of Bridge to Partnership and the Coming Home Project. So please visit my website, bridgetopartnership.com, and we can talk together about how to move forward in a way that is truly enlivening for all of us. And trust me, no one's perfect, and that includes me. I have lots of habits to break to actually walk the talk I'm talking. So we're all in this together. But it takes all of us together actually to do it. We can't do it by ourselves. We just can't. We need that abrasiveness, that discernment from others, the people who can see where we're blind, that kind of stuff. That's why it does take community. And when you trust the love and want the relationship, it's worth the struggle. It's worth the anguish. It's worth whatever it takes to make the journey a success, because it's so wonderful when it works. And we all have had this experience, that magic of relationship that does work, you know? And if you've ever co-created with someone, you've had the experience where it's bigger than both of you or all of you, that what you've all put made it possible, but it's nobody's. Nobody owned it. It was birthed through the interactions of everyone. And that's so exciting and so wonderful to experience. So my hope is that that can become how we live. It seems to happen in the rest of nature. So maybe we can make it happen in our little neck of the woods as well. So give me a ring, send me an email. Let's talk. bridge2partnership.com in the Coming Home Project. Thanks for listening. See you next week.